Welcome kitchen table wizards, welcome deck brewers from all over the world. Today it's a special day because today it's Tribal Day. And it's Tribal Day because we're going to brew a deck around one of the most favorite cards of the biggest YouTuber in the world, who apparently also plays Magic. I'm talking about the Firebird that rises from the ashes, the Phoenix.
Don't you just mention his name to get more views?
Okay, so the annoying, thank you. So the annoying noise you're hearing at the background, this is my lovely assistant. She's helping me a lot, but the idea is that you stay behind the scenes.
But Bram, it's true. You even wanted to call the video Rekindling Phoenix plays Phoenix Tribal for the first time.
No, that was just an idea. That was just an idea.
And you told me I needed to look up how many people there were from Phoenix, Arizona, so we could get more viewers from this city.
No, I didn't do that.
But yes, because you also asked me to find the phone number of the French famous vlogger called Incendiary Phoenix.
Yeah, but that was for something else. Maybe it's good that you already go home today. Go home early.
Okay, but do I still need to make a playlist of the French rock band Phoenix for you?
So, from the original time of Magic in the 90s till the making of this video, not a great lot of phoenixes were printed, were designed by Wizards of the Coast. But they all had a few things in common. They are red, they fly, a bunch of them also need to attack every turn and have haste, but most importantly, as they are phoenixes, they can return from the graveyard to the battlefield. So we need to play red because we need to have phoenixes, and I decided to add white to make some sort of mid-range control-ish red-white phoenix deck. I already tested a bunch with it and it's a really cool deck to play. Oh yeah, and if you still need to buy some phoenixes for yourself or some other cards, you can find them on Magic Card Market, our partner who is supporting the channel. And if you subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below, you might win a voucher which you can use to buy a lot of phoenixes with. And before I start, as always, you can also find the deck list in the description below. So today's deck is quite mana hungry, as we need our mana to play spells, but also to get phoenixes back from our graveyard. And as most of our cards are red, I play more mountains than plains. I play 8 mountains and they're all quite flavorful with my phoenix team, with a lot of lava and a lot of volcanoes. Then I decided to play 4 plains. And because a phoenix rises from the ashes, I also included this nice plane from John Avon with a sunrise. Get it?
Ah, that's why you included this card.
Camille, you can go home, I told you. In terms of dual lands, I included 4 Windscarred Crags and 2 Temple of Triumph. Another temple that I included is the Temple of the False God, which gives 2 mana when you have 5 or more lands. And another card that also gives 2 mana is the Boros Garrison. I also play a man land, and that's a land that you can animate that becomes a creature. And of course, because I play red and white, it's the Needle Spires. Evolving Wilds is also a must-have in the deck. It's a cheap way to get the right colors. And sometimes you need that double white for your removal spell, and this card can really help you find it. So this was the land base, now let's head into the creatures. And you're going to notice that I don't really need that much creatures because phoenixes, they keep coming back and I play a lot of removal spells, which I will talk about later. The Phoenix of Ash, a great new addition from Terros Beyond Dead. It's a perfect card as an early pressure card, but also it's good as a finisher. So for me, it's a super strong card and I included 3 of them in the deck. Another 3-drop we are playing is the Flamewake Phoenix. It's great for early pressure, it's a resilient creature and probably the most aggressive Phoenix of the bunch. Next I also play 2 Rekindling Phoenix. This card was a real powerhouse when it was in standard back in the day and I also absolutely love the art. It's also very difficult to get rid of as it always keeps coming back.
Like me!
The next Phoenix is the Akoum Firebird. It has flying and haste and for 4 mana you get a 3/3 and with landfall whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control you may pay 6 mana and if you do so the Akoum Firebird comes back from the graveyard to the battlefield. I included some lands that enable a few tricks with it. For example, a Boros Garrison will give you an additional mana and then you can bounce another land and play it and activate the trigger for the Akoum Firebird if you have 6 mana. Or you can even get it back if you have an Evolving Wilds out in your opponent's turn. As a surprise blocker, for example. You will sacrifice the Evolving Wild in your opponent's turn, you'll get a new land and then landfall triggers, and if you then have 6 mana open, you'll get an Akoum Firebird in your opponent's attack step. The next Phoenix is the Ashcloud Phoenix. I really like the card because it's a very aggressive card. For 4 mana you get a 4/1 flying and it also reactivates the Flamewake Phoenix when it attacks. And when it dies you can return it to the battlefield face down. It becomes a morph creature and if you turn it back face up it deals 2 damage to each player. Another 4 mana 4 power Phoenix is the Firewing Phoenix and this Phoenix you can get back for 4 mana from your graveyard to your hand. And last but not least I included also one Magma Phoenix. It costs 5 mana, it's a 3/3 flying and when it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield it deals 3 damage to each creature and each player. And of course you can get it back from your graveyard to your hand for 5 mana. These were the 14 Phoenixes I play in the deck. Now let's head into the removal suite and these are a bunch of cards. In the 2-drop slot I play one Incendiary Flow. It deals 3 damage to target creature or player and it's actually errated and it says to any target, so you can also use it to target a planeswalker. And if a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. I also included a Magma Jet because I really like the Scry ability. We don't play that much card draw, so this card can also help me search for answers. And I also play a split card called Resurgence. The response part deals 5 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. And sometimes you'll even play the Resurgence part to finish off your opponent, as creatures you control gain first strike and vigilance, and after this main phase there's an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. So this is especially great when you have an Ashcloud Phoenix out there that you can power up while putting some extra mana in it to give it +2/+0 or maybe even +4/+0. Then I also play one Warleader's Helix. It deals 4 damage to any target and you gain 4 life. I also play a Generous Gift. It turns one permanent into a big green elephant. And because the elephant doesn't fly, my Phoenixes won't really bother that my opponent has an elephant out there. Of course, I also decided to play one Swords to Plowshares, an iconic card from back in the days, which is just extremely good. But as you know, I keep it casual and I only play one. And I also included a Winds of Abandon, a card from Modern Horizons that is a little bit like a Path to Exile, but you can also play it for its overload cost and then you'll affect all the creatures of your opponent. This was the spot removal. Now I will go into a bit of mass removal. The first card for 3 mana that I play is a Deafening Clarion. It deals 3 damage to each creature, or creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. You can also choose both modes, but this doesn't appear that often in the deck as most of our Phoenixes are quite vulnerable. I also play 1 Sweltering Suns, a good sweeper that deals 3 damage to each creature, and if I don't need it I can just cycle it away for 3 mana. For 4 mana I also play a Solar Blaze, a sorcery that says each creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. And because I have a lot of Phoenixes, I don't really care because they will get back from the graveyard to the battlefield a little bit later in the game. Another 4 mana sweeper is Day of Judgment. I also included 1 Cleansing Nova. Here you can choose to destroy all creatures or you can choose to destroy all artifacts and enchantments. And if you really want to destroy everything, you can also play an Akroma's Vengeance. This card destroys all artifacts, creatures and enchantments, and you can cycle it away for 3 mana if you don't need it. Another iconic card from back in the day that I play is 1 Balance. Each player chooses a number of lands he or she controls equal to the number of lands controlled by the player who controls the fewest, then sacrifices the rest. Players discard cards and sacrifice creatures the same way. This is a really powerful card for 2 mana, and also the art is just amazing. And the mass removal continues because I also decided to play 1 Nevinyrral's Disc. The Nevinyrral's Disc is an artifact that enters the battlefield, and if you tap it for 1 mana it will destroy all artifacts, creatures and enchantments. I also play 1 spot removal card for artifacts and enchantments. It's a fuse split card called Wear and Tear, and you can fuse it. That means you can play both halves of the card if you play the full cost, or you can choose to play one side, and one side can destroy an artifact and the other one can destroy an enchantment. So you've noticed I play a bunch of removal in this deck, but I really don't mind because all the Phoenixes are coming back anyways. I do also play a little bit of support cards, and these are the cards that we're going to look at right now. As I told you, this is a very mana hungry deck. So I play 25 lands, but also I play 2 Boros Signets and 1 Talisman of Conviction. These are great cards as I don't have a lot of 2-drops and they ramp me into my Phoenixes and removal. Very good against aggressive decks. I also included a little bit of card draw. I included 2 Thrill of Possibility and 1 Outpost Siege. The last card is an enchantment, and most of the time I will be choosing the option Cans, where at the beginning of my upkeep I can exile the top card of my library, and until the end of turn I can decide to play that card if I have enough mana. Of course, if it's a land, then I will use it to also play this land. So this was the deck. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoy playing with it. And as always, let's now head into the power rankings. I gave the deck a power of 7, complexity also a 7, and consistency also a 7. You can play both offensive and defensive with the deck. So it's really important that you adapt a little bit to your opponent's style. For example, when your opponent is playing a lot of creatures, you play more defensively and play some big removal spells and then play your Phoenixes. Or when your opponent is playing more of a control style, then I would advise you to play your Phoenixes early and then get them back later to continue to put pressure on your opponent. For me, I really like the flavor of this deck, so that's why I gave it a 7 in the fun factor. And I do think it's also good value for money. The deck costs around $40 I think, or 40 euros. And as always, a little bit later in the deck tag I will give you a more budget version for it. Now let's head into the metagame review and see how the deck is doing against other decks. Against aggressive and mid-range decks, The deck is doing pretty good. You have a lot of removal spells for all the creatures your opponent is playing, and the good thing is your phoenixes are always coming back, so you don't really worry when they die to a mass removal spell, because they will simply come back a little bit later. Even against control, I think the matchup is quite good, because your opponent will have a lot of trouble with the phoenixes that come back all of the time if he or she can't remove your graveyard. The only matchup I don't like that much is against combo decks, because you don't really have a lot of ways to disrupt a combo. So against combo decks, I only gave it a 5. To finish, as always, I also included a maybe board. First, I'm going to talk about a little bit of a budget version of this deck. So if you're not really convinced to spend $40 or 40 euros to buy the whole deck, you can start by playing this deck for around $20 and then upgrade it if you like. And then at the end, I also included a few cards that I think that also go very well into the deck. To start with building Phoenix on a budget and make it a $20 deck, I removed the Temples of Triumph. I also removed the Rekindling Phoenix, and they cost around 5 euros or $6 a piece. So this one is the most expensive card in the deck. I also remove Balance, Cleansing Nova and Wear are not extremely expensive cards, but if you remove them all together, it will also save you around 10 bucks. So now let's talk about the cards we can put in to make this deck a lot cheaper. The temples will be replaced by a stone quarry. We need to replace the Rekindling Phoenix, so I suggest to play one Flame-Wreathed Phoenix and one Immortal Phoenix. These two Phoenixes are also a good replacement if you don't want to play an Ashcloud Phoenix in your main deck. The following 3 cards are also budget replacements for the Balance, Cleansing Nova and Wear and Tear. Magma Jet is really a great card in the deck because you will probably need to look for answers and the deck doesn't have a lot of card draw. Planner Cleansing is also a great destroy all card, and Wear and Tear can easily be replaced by a disenchant. I did find 2 cool phoenixes that I didn't include in the deck but were worth mentioning in this video. Akoum Firebird is a 3/3 for 6 mana, which is a lot, but the card is usually a 6/6 as it has Bloodthirst 3, and of course, as the other ones, you can also get it back. Screeching Phoenix is a rare phoenix with beautiful art. It's a 4/4 for 6 mana, which can give all your other creatures +1/+0. Now, I don't play too much creatures in my deck, and this is also a phoenix that doesn't return from the graveyard to the battlefield, so it doesn't really fit the theme of my deck. But a cool card nonetheless. And as my last 2 suggestions of the deck, Lightning Helix is a 2 mana removal spell that deals 3 damage to target creature or player and you gain 2 life. And I included another 2-drop. It's called Boros Charm. It can deal 4 damage to target player, or you can have permanents you control gain indestructible, or even give a creature double strike. These 2 common instants cost a little bit more, so that's why I didn't include them in the first version of my deck, but I do think both are great additions anyway. So this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I will see you hopefully next Friday for a new video deck tech, and as always, keep it casual.